All right. Welcome, everyone. Today is Tuesday, September 10th, and the time is 7:03 p.m. Melissa, will you please take roll call?
Yes. Aaron Pellegrini? Here. Richard Poore?
Here.
Andy Cabarrus?
Here.
Carl Hubner?
Here.
Melissa Denton? Here. Thank you. And also seated at the board table is Superintendent of Schools, Bob Thompson, and CFO, Jeff Dowd.
All right, at this point, we will rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, board members, in your packets, you have some meeting minutes from our regular August 27th meeting. So if you'll go ahead and review those, and then I'll be looking for a motion to accept those minutes.
I'll make a motion to accept the meeting minutes from August 27th.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
All approved?
Thank you.
All right. Melissa, we will open up the floor for public comment.
Okay, we do not have any tonight so far.
Great. Thank you. All right, moving on to school highlights with Amy Bernard.
And we're going to do that. Okay. Can you all hear me okay? All right,
Good.
Perfect. Awesome. I first want to start off by just thanking our school community and our staff for making me feel so welcome here at Hampstead Middle School in our 8th day of school. I just feel like I've come home. So I wanted to start by saying that. You all got my school board report, which was mostly some updates on some of the things I had shared less than 2 weeks ago when I was here. I want to share that fall sports have started, and we have nearly 30% of our school population actively enrolled in fall sports, which is super exciting. In addition, I'm so excited to share that we're going to do our first ever daytime club fair. So when I was going through the interview process, we had a group of students that were part of that process, and they expressed to me that they wanted an opportunity to get more kids to know what was going on, to advertise for their clubs, and to have higher attendance. And so I brought it to a few of our staff members. They took hold of it, and within a week, we're rolling it out. So I'm really excited about that. An update on the One Book, One School, or One School, One Book program. It looks like we are going to be rolling that out a little bit earlier with our 8th graders as it kind of aligns with an English language arts unit that they have. And so they're going to start that process likely, and then they're going to serve as leaders as we roll it out with the rest of the school. So stay tuned to that. In addition, we've been really focusing on community service. And so in addition to the Crayon Initiative that will be rolling out, you may have seen in my weekly newsletter that we had a group of 7th graders start the process of helping with food deliveries for the St. Anne's Food Pantry. We'll be doing that once a month and sending a group of kids to go help with those deliveries. We also had our 8th graders collect canned and boxed foods to help with the salt box pantry. And that was in honor of National Charity Day, September 5th, and National Food Pantry Day, September 6th. In our advisories, we're focusing on Substitute Appreciation Week, that's this week, and so they're putting together little gifts for the substitutes and kind words. So that's kind of the start of it, but we have a lot more planned or, that we're going to be rolling out. So we're really excited about that. Any questions about any of those things?
I know for the students, as far as, educating them on what the clubs are, that's really where the fair comes into play, but just for the public at home and for our benefit, do you have any examples of the types of clubs that students are involved in?
Oh, yeah. So we have student council. We're even going to have some representation from our PTSA group. They're going to be there. We have our anti-bullying club. We have, I think our art club is coming. So I think we have about 7 groups at this time. I actually will be sending out a list of all the clubs and their advisors before Club Fair, so that if parents want to talk to their kids about the clubs and stuff before the day so that they can get information, they'll have that as well.
That's great.
So stay tuned to that. I'm hoping to get that out tomorrow, but definitely by Thursday.
Excellent.
And I will also add that we're having our first Spirit Day, which will be where your interest to support the Club Fair.
Awesome. Any other questions for Amy? Great. Thank you. Amy, we are moving on to the MTSSB update, so you can stay right there.
Sure. Are we ready?
Ready.
Okay. So MTSSB, multi-tiered system of support, and this is in terms of behavior is what I'm speaking on now. I just want to start by saying that I know when I stood up here in July, I was a little vague about some ideas and some processes that we'd be putting into place in the school, but that was really because I felt that I needed to get into the school, I needed to talk to the staff, I needed to really do a deep dive into our procedures, and then we could talk about some really actionable items, and I think I'm ready to do that now. We have a lot of stuff going on here. So just in the past 23 days, I'll stop giving you guys the number of days that I've been working pretty soon, but 23 days, 8 days of school. I've had a chance to speak to stakeholders within our school community, students, parents, staff. I've done a deep dive into our existing procedures and protocols. I've pulled data, conduct data from last year to sort of try to identify where the areas of issues were. Last year, I met, actually not last year, but I met with some members of our MTSS committee from last year. So I reviewed what they were working on, which was really focusing on strength-based approach and positive enforcement strategies with students. That was really what was happening last year. So I've reviewed the MTSB report by Janine Richards, and I've identified many areas of growth and improvement going forward for this school year. And when we have a plan and put strategies in place, we're always looking at our core values in our strategic plan, which are communicating with positive intent, honoring the child, relationship and team building, acting with integrity, and with a culture of collaboration. So that's really what this is all rooted on. So this year, what's already completed, we started by incorporating those 4 core values as a centerpiece for our opening day celebration, which some of you are a part of. We have t-shirts just displaying those core values that were made for every staff member. We already talked about the fact that we had Charlie Applestein do leadership and staff training on strength-based approach and creating classroom culture and the power of relationships, really stressing that you don't have to be a therapist to be therapeutic. We have a new student statement form, so anytime that a student comes in, whether they've been sent out of class or go to see a school counselor, they are going to fill out a statement, so we have their side of the story, we have the facts that we can refer to. We've had staff training on classroom versus office managed behaviors, and I have provided a complete list of resources with restorative practices, so such as guidelines for writing apology letters, reflection letters. In addition to the mandatory online training for bullying, we offered in-person training on reporting and investigation processes here at HMS. So we wanted our teachers to know what we're doing here and how that process works. We have also, I have created a new online we have our new online bullying reporting form that's up on the website, but also I've created an online report and investigation checklist that we will be using just to streamline this process and make it easier. We have now really reinforced the cell phone policy, make sure that it's clear and enforced that there is no cell phones in school. And I say this with relation to MTSS because I think it's really important that we eliminate social media as much as possible during the school day. We know what happens on social media. We know what these kids are saying to one another. We want that out of our school environment. We instituted new weekly wraparound meetings. These meetings are going to be with administration, our SRO, school nurse, school counselors, school psychologist, and our social worker when she can come. And the goal of this is to discuss students that will be referred to us through an MTSS referral process. And I'll talk more about the plan with our data teams and how they will refer to this group in a minute. So that's what we've already done. So then my short-term goals for about 1 to 3 months, and this is all coming directly from Janine Richards and her MTSS report as well, is we're gonna be posting posters. So we'll do a student competition for graphics for each of the core values, and we'll be posting those around school. With our MTSS committee, I wanna go backwards a little bit. I wanna refine our process by outlining what resources we have at school, then putting them into tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 categories, creating a flow chart for MTSS at HMS, and then streamlining the referral process for both discipline, social, and emotional concerns and incidences. So the idea will be that when we have these data team meetings with our grade level meetings or teachers, that they will be able to refer students through a streamlined process so that then we can take our wraparound meetings and address the issues very specifically. In our advisories, we're focusing on community service, relationship building, and a culture of respect. I really think it's important that we put in preventative measures, or we really look at prevention of all of these issues, and that's one place that it's gonna start. We're also gonna look at doing some prevention in student education with anti-drugs, vaping, suicide prevention, and bullying prevention. So I'm looking at all that now. I don't have anything booked yet, but that is on the horizon in the 1 to 3 month time frame. Also, there's going to be a mediation taking place for some relationship repair between administration and school counseling. That's really important that we work as a team and we're a united front. As part of that, there will be a review of the bullying report and investigation checklist, making sure that everybody has clear and defined roles in the process so there's no miscommunications and all the boxes get checked. Long term, by the end of the school year, this also, suggestion from the consultant, would be to have an online behavior referral process. So we do know that there is a plugin to PowerSchool, the Marsha Brenner plugin, that would allow us to have easy submission of referrals for behavior. It would allow us to track the data more efficiently and be able to look at trends over time. It would allow us to flag harassment and bullying issues. It would allow us to talk to teachers so that they know what's going on when there are conduct issues and what the results were of it. If we do not do the plugin, then I am going to create an online referral process or a behavior process with Google Forms. So either way, we are going to online with our behavior referrals. And then I'm also working with Mrs. Tomaselli to develop more professional learning around trauma-informed teaching. So that's pretty much what we've been working on in the first 23 days. And I'm sure I'll have a longer list for you as we go, and I'm excited to share those things with you. But what I also wanted to add on a personal note was, I'm so excited to begin this work. I want our community to know that as a Hampstead resident, as a parent of 2, I have just as much of a stake here as all of you do. This is a marathon, and I'm going to throw that in there as a runner, not a sprint, but I am committed to helping make some real improvements here for the good of our school community, and I so appreciate the opportunity to be given, the opportunity that you have all given me to do so. So thank you so much for that. Any questions?
That is a lot of work already in a short amount of time. And I appreciate, what you're doing for the staff and the students and the parents as well.
Thank you. And it is a lot of work. It was a lot of work, but it's been a team. And these guys have been absolutely tremendous. There has not been one time where I have had a suggestion and somebody wasn't, I'll do it. That's the community we live in.
Same as Aaron, no specific questions, but I'm really excited to hear about all the work that's being done around MTSS. When it comes to the behavior referrals, that's such a big part of MTSS. I would really caution against the Google Forms. It gets really, really clunky. So I think as we approach budget season, we should really talk about plugins and other ways of managing that, just to streamline things and make things a lot more effective for you going forward.
Thank you. And that would definitely be the preferred method for me because it would be so much more robust too.
Just want to say thank you for going with this because it's much, much needed. So
You're welcome.
A cool thing that people were doing for Tier 1 MTSB was having the student council make videos of this is how we act and then showing them to kids, and I thought that was really cool that another school was doing. So I'm stealing it from my school, but you don't have to do it for yours, but yeah.
I love that. Any way that we can get students involved in this process is I'm on board with. Absolutely.
Of stuff, so that's awesome.
That's all right. That's great.
Yeah. I'll just kind of echo everyone else. It is a lot of stuff in a short amount of time, so that has not gone unnoticed by any of us. I'm very impressed with how seriously you're taking this, how committed you are, how much you're digging in and trying to uncover the nitty-gritty details to really fix the process. Personally, I'll say I'm really encouraged by hearing the no cell phones and really trying to push that because I think that's a huge part of the problem. So that's great. Any other questions for Ms. Bernard? Yeah, let's go.
Because I want to leave on time. But with the no cell phone policy, are you looking into any, I know they have different lockers and pockets and pouches, something to ensure kids have them put away somewhere?
Right. So right now, the rule is it's in your backpack. We don't want to see it. I checked in with the staff last week. I asked what's the pulse on the cell phones because I've had one that has been brought to the office so far. And they said they have not been seeing them. So if we start to see more of that, then I will definitely look into that. I can say, and I will say this to our public, that if we do get a cell phone, I will be calling home and having a conversation with the parent so that we're all on the same page. So any parents that get a call from me, you'll know. So we're a team. We're going to do this together. But I would say I will look into those if it starts to ramp up. But right now, I think we have some really good compliance, and we're on a really good track right now.
Excellent. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. Do you want Mr. Thompson and Mr. Dowd are going to give us an update on school bus transportation.
All right, just a couple of updates with transportation. So on the regular education side of things with transportation, things are running relatively smoothly. You know, we should be operating with 9 buses. We're operating with 8, which really is how many we operated with for most of last year. That's not an issue when we're running 8, but if we have a driver who's out and we have to go down to 7, that's a big problem. And that's when you see bus backup. So in talking with the bus company, they do have somebody in training. The training takes a little while. By my measure, we should have that person on board before cold and flu season, which makes me pretty optimistic. You know, one item that's gotten a little bit of traction in the news is First Student, who's our transportation provider, also provides transportation for a good portion of New Hampshire's. They're currently negotiating a new contract with the Teamsters Union. They actually went to the table today. They also have a meeting tomorrow as well. The reason why it's garnered some attention is because there's been some talk of if they weren't able to settle on a contract, there could potentially be a bus strike. I have had conversations with fellow superintendents. I've talked several times to Frank Edelblue, our Commissioner of Education, to talk about contingency plans. There's a great deal of confidence that they will settle the contract and that this wouldn't be an issue. As far as contingency plans, it's difficult because transportation is such a key component of what we do. You know, but rest assured, I would put out to the public that we will run school even if we were to have some transportation issues that we had to address. I'm confident that that won't happen, but we will continue. The continuity of the school day will continue if there is some disruption with transportation. So. And then I'll turn it over to Mr. Dowd, who could talk a little bit about specialized transportation and some of the issues that we're having on that end.
So a couple of notes on regular transportation. We actually started the year, I think, in a better position than we were certainly last year and the year before in terms of having a routing set up and in terms of having our buses run on time, which I'm really pleased with. We have people who are within familiar with the district handling routing. Nicole is one of them. She's working very hard to do that. We're still making changes to the bus routes as we're receiving requests from parents, and that will continue. So I appreciate all the efforts of First Student to help get us in a great spot this year. That said, our specialized transportation has been disappointing, frustrating. Up until this point, we feel we round a corner with Durham, and then we are surprised by another disappointment. So it is what it is. We are working diligently with them to try and bring them into compliance with what our needs are. We have had to add a second bus in the morning because, and this happens from time to time, it has happened with our midday run bus before, because Hampstead is such a disparate town. If we have students on the east end of East Hampstead and toward the west end of West Hampstead, it's a very difficult route to try and do in one cycle. So we have had to increase that. That will have a budgetary implication. And for all of our parents who utilize specialized transportation, I thank you for your patience, and please know that we are working very diligently with with Durham to rectify that on a daily basis. We have had a number of meetings between HSY during the summer with the principal, with their regional vice president, and certainly we're in a better spot than we were, but I am at a loss for understanding their performance. It's very unfortunate. So it's something that we're going to have to consider going forward, and I'm sure we'll continue to have discussions on that. So,
Is the problem driver specific, or is it across multiple drivers for Durham?
I am going to say that it is a lack of specific drivers. We have had very smooth years where we have had very dedicated drivers who are dedicated to our district. who know, who have a flow, and when you have that, when you have the continuity in drivers, you understand the flow of pickup and drop off, you understand the flow of how the town is laid out, so you can minimize any extra travel needs that you may have. You understand the locations that certain students get dropped off, you understand the timing, and we've just had inconsistent drivers. And I don't know if they're substitutes or not. One of the things that may be at play here is that First Student has a yard, and when our drivers go in, if they don't take their buses home, and I don't think a lot of our drivers do, dispatch and the manager, the area manager have an opportunity to actually catch the driver and say, hey, this is going on, what can we do, that sort of thing. Durham is much more regionally based, and so I think that those drivers are working off route sheets. If you go past a number, any residential neighborhood you're probably going to see, or in town, you'll see Durham buses parked. They don't go back to their central lot, and I think that that's a serious disconnect. I don't know how they could go back to their lot because it is so far away, but I really feel that not being able to have that personal interaction is impacting our transportation currently with Durham. And that's why when we have consistent drivers, we're able to have really no issues whatsoever. So it's something that I don't think that they've been able to get a handle on. I don't know I do know what the answer is, but I don't think it's going to help us at the moment. So, yeah, and I also feel that they may be, and I'm not sure what their staffing level is, but they may be a little bit understaffed for what their demand is. I know that I was always told, and I think it's the truth, that regular transportation and specialized transportation are two different worlds almost entirely in terms of support. The specialized transportation requires a lot more support, dedicated dispatch, that sort of thing, and so that's not what my experience is that we're having right now. So we've got our thumb on it, and yeah, hopefully it will be improving. We're certainly aiming for that.
And, this is one of those issues where, like any problem, you look for really creative problem-solving solutions, and there really aren't any. It's a conversation that we're having at the state level with the Superintendent's Association, and even when other districts are using different companies are running into the same issues. What also complicates things is that the regulations and laws around student transportation have become far more restrictive over the last few years. Go back 5 years, districts were, buying vans and training folks to transport kids to and from their homes. The regulations don't allow for that anymore. So you really are sort of stuck. And this really is a big issue. And it is unacceptable that we will have children, especially children with disabilities, on a bus for more than an hour. It's unacceptable. We don't accept that as a solution. And I think of our preschool students in early intervention and the need to be in school. They're only in school for half a day. And we have buses that are rolling up, continuously rolling up late. It's frustrating. It's frustrating for our teachers, for our parents. It's not fair to our kids. And we're at that point where, I question whether or not they are executing the contract in good faith.
I'd be interested, not for the next school board meeting, but maybe in a month to get another update on where we stand. Allowing a window of time for progress to be made, but then just coming back to the board and giving us an update. That would be great.
I do like the fact that we're running 2 buses to try to help with that and minimize the time, even if it's not currently working correctly, but at least it's a step in the right direction, especially because them having a routine and getting to school at a certain time is really valuable for them. So
We have another 2 years after this minimum. But I think Bob's fair. The discussion is going on right now as to how in line with their contractual obligations they are and our obligation to stick with the contract on an ongoing basis, if that's the case. That said, we have had some rocky starts with First Student as well, and they've been able, it's taken a year or two, but they've been able to address those. My hope would be that Durham would be able to do the same, and we know that they can because we've had this much better performance in years past. We know that there's a capability to do it. So.
Okay. Thank you. All right, moving on to the HCS renovation update.
Yes, that would be me. So I have some, which I think are probably in your packet, some picture updates from where we're at. I have some good news, I think, with the project overall. Some of that news is that we, and just as an overview on the project for those who may be watching the simulcast who aren't familiar, our infill classroom project is a project that will add 2 classrooms between the 40s wing and the 60s wing at Hampstead Central School. It'll also renovate 2 existing classroom spaces in the 40s wing. This was approved by the Hampstead voters in March of 2024. Project budget is $1,558,950, and it will be paid for from the Capital Reserve Fund. So the good news is that our original completion date was pegged at about mid-November of this year, and the good news is that that's still the anticipated date. As you know, we had a couple issues with ledge and a couple other factors, but our contractor has been able to make up a lot of that time. So I've prepared some pictures as to where the status is. It looks like a mess, but it actually is showing significant progress. You'll see the picture on the left is a view from the 40s wing looking out at the 2 new classrooms. The picture on the right is looking toward the 40s wing, more from the parking lot area. The masonry and brickwork is well underway. Our concrete floors are in, our second floor is in, all the steel is done. We even have some electrical that's been completed in that new section. Here you can see the actual downstairs classroom, the lower level classroom. On the left, you'll see the door. That door will go into the hallway between the 60s wing. Well, really, it'd be the hallway going into the 60s wing more than anything. We do have the lights that are there, obviously not permanent. We will and have arranged for the design on this room to encompass an open ceiling. So what you see, the steel beams will continue to be exposed because of some very odd height level dimensions in that building. We had to keep it a little bit lower, so hopefully that'll give it a more open feel. It's being designed that way. We have had, and you can see that there's a rough-in for electrical already in, which is absolutely great. As I'm sitting there this morning, our truck pulled in with our air conditioner units. So I am just so happy that things are moving along. We have the 40s wing classroom on the lower level. You'll see behind you, this was our special education space prior to, and we'll probably return to that. You can see that there's a door in the background with a light into the next room. That is an egress door into that new classroom space, so you can kind of see how it'll all tie together. So we'll have this part finished when the project itself gets finished. That was by design. Next, you'll see the completed 40s wing room upstairs, which is currently the temporary library space. This is set to revert back to classroom space once all of the work is complete. We do have a few things to tidy up in there, including our HVAC, which will be tied in to the installation of the HVAC in the 60s wing. You can see on the picture on the right, there is a window. That's a temporary window. The final window will be installed with the final installation of the windows in the 2 new classrooms. So there it is.
It's come a long way from where it was 6 weeks ago.
Progress is moving really, really fast, and I think that we have the benefit, which I did not know that it would be such a benefit, of having a small enough project so that we can get kind of squeezed in as vendors have availability if they have a day here, a day there. When we had done the overall 60s wing project, that was such a big project that the contractors needed a lot of time. And so if we were in that situation now, we'd probably be jammed up trying to get them in, but we've been able to accommodate, they've been able to accommodate our requests, so I'm really happy.
How are we doing on costs?
Good question. So we are so early, I hate to say it, and I was explaining this to Bob earlier.
I asked the same question today, Dr. Hubner, so we're aware.
Yeah. We haven't seen significant cost overruns. We've actually seen some deductions, and we've had some change orders. We're talking $5,000, not a lot. We actually experienced some cost savings because I had asked why could we not I think we're going to put the HVAC units on the 2 new classrooms on a different roof. Yep. So why can't we put them on you might have been at that meeting, why can't we just put them on the roof of the infill classrooms, and that turned out to save us some money as well. I think we're going to come in under budget, but right now our billings are not coming, or they're not proximate to the work. So what you're seeing there, I think we've only paid like 2 invoices. What you see there, I'll probably see a bill for in 2 months.
Okay. Yeah. So the change in the filling and the the foundation didn't, we offset it with some of the other stuff that.
We have some contingency built in, and we had not experienced the potential. It was more of a time issue than a money issue.
And just to recall a previous conversation that we've had, I would like us, when we do have the final project cost, to explore any unexpended funds to look at fencing at HCS. And, you know, the difference between this project and the 60s renovation is this project has already been paid for. It doesn't have any current tax impact. So if the project comes in under budget, that's not money that can go back to the taxpayers. It remains in capital reserve. But I do think that there are some enhancements that can be made that I've talked to the board about both publicly and in non-public as well that we'll want to consider. And we'll bring that back to the board for some consideration. We just need to get that final number in.
So a special thank you to the teachers who were in the adjoining classrooms, to our librarians for being able to have that library moved in as school was beginning. It is very much appreciated. Ms. Carberry in particular, she has a connecting room where we had to put an egress door on the second floor and I appreciate that. We had some very loud work that we knew was going to be loud work that we had anticipated would be completed in the summer, and we did have some days where that spilled over into school time. It looks like the work going forward will not be so extraordinarily disruptive, going forward. But we're at a good spot right now. It's been pretty quiet.
And they've been doing a lot of after hours and weekend work to try to mitigate some of the noise concerns.
That's great. Any questions or comments on the renovation? Okay, thank you for the update. All right, moving into our 2025-2026 budget season overview.
Right, so in your packets, you'll see a timeline for the 25-26 budget preparation. You know, in our school budget preparation, it's not just about us anticipating our costs. This is an opportunity for our leadership and for our board to articulate our values, our priorities. The work that gets done is really articulated in how we are committing our financial resources. And so, again, for the public and for you know, those that are new to the board, you know, we take the approach where we employ a strategy known as zero-based budgeting, which is every year we sort of start from scratch, like what is the need, which involves us really clearly articulating and breaking down all of the various costs, literally to the dollar. You'll see when we head into the budget workshop how many boxes of crayons we're buying, how many Band-Aids we're buying. And so it's not simply a matter of taking last year's number and applying it in inflation to it. The folks who really are in the trenches building this budget are building it from the ground up. So we're in the process right now in the month of September, and the process starts much earlier. It actually starts in July. But having conversations, beginning the process of getting numbers so that the you know, teachers can submit their budgets to the principal. The principal collects them, reviews them, proposes a operating budget for their school. They will meet with Jeff and I, and this includes also our directors as well. They meet with Jeff and I in early September, October. We review that. We ask lots of questions. We may ask them to make revisions. From there, we bring forward the budget in early October, really just a sort of a high-level discussion about what the budget's going to look like. Then on October 15th, we'll have a work session where we'll present to the board by department the various budgets. We'll get some feedback at that meeting, and we'll go back and make some revisions. In October into November is conversations between the administration and the board where we will, you know, work to come up with a final budget that the board will approve sometime in December. So the budget moves from being the budget of the school administration to the school board's budget. From there, we would go into January where we would hold a public hearing so that the board would be able to get input on that budget, make any final adjustments that needed to be made, and then, we would go through, the process of having a deliberative session, and then, putting forward a budget to the voters in March. It's still so early in the project, so I hesitate to try to predict, what, some of those drivers are. We know last year from conversations that we had a lot of unanticipated expenses in special education. So what we have to do is we now have to memorialize or capture last year's unanticipated expenses in this year's budget. And that's a very difficult task for Melissa McDonald, who wasn't here. But we'll work through that to make sure that we capture those. But then we also have to anticipate what some of those unanticipated costs may be moving forward. It's not an easy task to do. And you see this particularly in the student services budget. You also see it in maintenance. We don't know, what our plumbing expenses will be, what our electrical expenses will be. We try to do a lot of that work in-house, but some of it is looking at, a 3-year look back of what our expenses have been, what the rate of increase is. What we'll be looking for from the board is just some direction. What are you looking for us? We want to make sure that when we bring a budget to you, it does align with your values, what you're looking for. We appreciate there's a certain level of autonomy that you give us in the creation of that budget. We do appreciate that, but we also want to make sure that our values are aligned with yours. So as we go through this process, it doesn't have to be tonight. We want to make sure that if there are resources or things that you want to see, if there's certain areas that you want us to look at especially carefully, that you be sure to articulate that to us. I'll entertain any questions that folks may have.
Yeah, just to kind of reiterate what Bob said, I'll be looking for you guys to kind of brainstorm before our next meeting on, what our priorities should be for this upcoming budget season, and I'll be entertaining any ideas.
So one thing I just want to bring up, so last year we tasked you guys with kind of going back and giving us different amounts that you could deduct it. And I was a little bit surprised at some of the things that were able to be deducted. So I'd actually challenge you to sort of make those deductions before it comes to us, right? So, because there were some things that really kind of didn't need to be there. So I think, we need to keep in mind that, I know this was expensive, but, the taxpayers are also just had evaluations on their homes and things like that. So it's going to be really, really tough. And so we just really need to do our due diligence and just make sure that, we're really only spending what we, obviously we know that there's things that happen, right? So you have to account for that, but just in general, that's my only comment.
And I'll also add too that you'll get a sneak peek of some of the larger items at the next meeting, because we'll present the capital improvement plan under Mr. Mackey's leadership as the Director of Facilities. So you'll see, and again, going back to last year, we developed a capital improvement plan that is a rolling 5-year plan. So every year we conclude a year and we add a year on. And what that, not only does that articulate our sort of goals, objectives, and priorities, but it also has ticketed items of, underground oil tank replacement, septic. We've had conversations about the lawnmower. So you'll be able to see, because in maintenance, some of those, that's where you do find some of those bigger ticketed items. So your first peek at that will be at the next meeting. And we'll be looking for your feedback on how we've prioritized those next 5 years in maintenance. Because we did defer some of the projects. The roof is a good example. The district's done a great job of doing roof repair staggered over time. which is great because it presents as a little bit of a lower cost item and not one big ticketed item. Well, we deferred last year, so you never want to defer too long on your maintenance because then you just end up playing catch up. So.
Absolutely.
Specifically for our new board members, any questions on the process or the timeline or anything else? No? Okay. And any other ideas that anyone wants to share that are just off the top of their head on what our priorities are? Okay. All right. Thanks for that. Moving on here to the Hampstead School Board scholarship approval. So historically, Hampstead has selected one senior boy and one senior girl graduating from Pinkerton in the spring of 2025 to receive a scholarship. And in your packets, you have the listing of all of the recipients going back to 2002, 2003. And this shows the amounts that they were given. You can see here in the document, pretty much on an every 2 to 3 year schedule, we've pushed for the amount to increase. So I didn't know if anyone had any thoughts on whether we keep that amount the same for another year or whether we decide to increase that scholarship amount.
Are you asking for?
Just any thoughts on
I
keeping
mean,
it the same or increasing
A
it?
lot of colleges at this point are raising tuitions. I know SNHU just went through a tuition increase, which has not happened in a long time. So, I mean, I could definitely get behind supporting, an increase to next year's award.
Any other thoughts?
I have a college student, so I can tell you that these scholarships, even if it's for 1 year, they're so helpful. So I think, if we increase it a little bit, it's going to be really nominal anyway.
Sure.
So I would be, we could, increase it like $250, kind of like to go, if we're going to go along the kind of same path that it's going, or we can, do it a little bit more, whatever. I'm kind of open to what you guys think.
I'm definitely open to increasing it. My thoughts were making it 1,600, but I don't know if anyone else has any other ideas.
Can this get used for trades or tech, like 2-year colleges or technical programs?
It's a really good question.
I'm pretty sure you can use them for anything. Because you give the check to the student, you don't pay it to the school. Yes, if that's the case, then they
Okay.
can use it however.
Okay.
That's been my experience anyway.
I think 1,750 would be fine.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
Okay.
That sort of goes in line with how the increases have been.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to increase the scholarships to 1,750.
Second.
All approved?
And just to reiterate, to congratulate the 23-24 recipients,
Yes.
Hannah Bernard and Adam Day.
She was not employed for the school district when we gave her.
Dr. Hubner, I was just reading the names. Okay. Yeah, and it's important to note, it is Pinkerton actually selects the individuals to receive the scholarship, so they know the students best, so.
Great. Okay. So moving on here to the 2024-2025 draft school board goals. So in our last meeting, we discussed the 2023-2024 goals and the possibility of changing or making edits to those existing goals. So really there was some discussion among the board on potentially combining goals and adding language to enhance more of what our priorities were as a board within our goals. And Bob did a great job of coming up with different ways to include that language. So Bob, I don't know if you want to speak to.
Yeah, just to say our process here was I took last year's goals, created a Google Doc so that I could get individual feedback from board members. And I took that feedback. So there's really 3 documents that you have in your packet. One is the green document, which is those are last year's goals. Then there is the sample document where I tried to capture folks' individual feedback that you provided. And then the next one is sort of a blank document, which hopefully will be what our actual goals are for 24-25. And so I just want to start by saying that, you know, the goals are really an articulation of the board's values. When it comes to the actionable work, the things that are done, that is the strategic plan. And it is, we are doing this exercise first, and we're taking good notes so that when the principals get up and talk about their deliverables for the strategic plan, they're working off of the goals that we have articulated. So just real quick, the changes that I made that you see in the sample document, I modified one of the goals. That first goal was digital literacy. There was some talk about broadening that and talking about diverse learning experiences, so I made some adjustments to that. Then there was some conversation about combining the budget goal with effective use of financial resources, so I combined those 2 goals. There was also some feedback about combining outdoor community-based learning with innovative practices, so I did that. And then there was also some feedback that was provided around a new goal that talked about support for staff and students. I heard the board articulate the importance of the work around MTSS. I've heard the board articulate the importance of being diligent with bullying and harassment, suicide prevention, intervention. So I tried to articulate that. This is just for your consideration. You're not going to hurt my feelings if the board decides to go in a different direction. But I thought that this might be a good starting point for us to be able to try to finalize these this evening. So, and I'll entertain any questions that folks might have.
I like the 2 combined ones. I especially like that the legacy of Megan Malcolm is still alive and well in the outdoor classrooms.
I was thinking about that.
I definitely like the new goal. Feels good. For me, I really like something about citizenship in the first one. Like at the end, something like, and to be empowered and informed citizens. So I have grave concerns about students' ability to understand and be critical of information that they're getting when it's outside the classroom or from social media. I also worry that they shy away from having conversations, face-to-face, debates, discussions. Like one of the main goals for public education is for social good and to have engaged citizens when they leave, and I think that's something that I would like to see as a part of this.
Which one was that one for, Carl?
So the literacy on the first one, so right now it's innovative learning opportunities to enhance educational outcomes and prepare them for future success. I'd like to change it to innovative learning opportunities to enhance educational outcomes, comma, prepare them for future success, comma, and to be empowered and informed citizens.
Love that.
Something
Yeah,
to effect.
I think that's great.
Have a problem with it. I'm just curious about the language or something about being critical thinking.
So there is critical thinking earlier, and I thought about it. It says creativity, critical thinking, and I thought about putting that in again, but I think that, yeah.
I may be in the minority on this, and I think, I personally think that we're a little bit too wordy. I think that as a board, we can't possibly, in a set of goals, come up with everything that we want our kids to be, right? So I think we need to come up with some very broad goals and then give the superintendent and his team the ability to build a strategic plan around that.
I would agree.
And with those actionable pieces. So, I mean, I actually think that several of these goals could be eliminated completely. And I know I had talked a little bit about the specifically goal number 1, the digital literacy, and I was talking more about emphasizing early reading literacy and early reading and writing, and really making an investment long term in early childhood education, because we're seeing special ed numbers going up, and some of that is likely due to inadequate early intervention. So when I talk about literacy, that's kind of where I'm going. I see the digital literacy more fitting into the innovative practices piece. My personal opinion is I would like to maybe see the board consider making a little subcommittee and coming back with draft goals based on these for the next meeting. That's what I would propose.
I don't know if special ed is going up.
Well, it's not going up. We have a high
number.
referral,
You have high
high number of referrals at our district, and
increasing out of district placements, I believe.
Yes,
So when I
that's
had
more complicated.
sent my suggestions in, I kind of had combined the digital literacy and innovative practices. So I mean, if we can potentially, we could figure out a way to combine those two, but make them less wordy. That might actually solve that, because sort of the innovative practices are kind of what you're talking about, right? If we can kind of somehow combine them in a way, that might work.
I don't necessarily think that we need to lessen it. I think there's nuance to the words that we have in there, and it allows Bob's to refer back to conversations that we have as a board.
Yeah, I don't mean lessen it, I just mean like consolidate those two potentially.
yeah, I agree with Rich in the sense that what once was digital literacy, that can absolutely be included or combined with innovative practices, and the focus on literacy really needs to be on early intervention and true literacy with a focus on reducing special ed referrals and grade level mastery, essentially.
Well, I still think we could add in what Carl was saying about citizenship within the, because I do like that, maybe within the innovative practices, however we decide to.
I would agree.
combine that,
I
yeah.
fully support the citizenship piece wherever we want to put that, but again, I think re-envisioning literacy as true literacy rather than digital literacy related to technology is
So
the
maybe separate that out and put those things with innovative practices, because
Yep.
really if it's digital, it probably is an innovative practice. So we
Yeah.
can kind of maybe tool that a little bit differently.
And for like the early intervention and stuff like that, instead of having just the MTSSB for the last one, you can just have a more robust MTSS program. And
Yeah, and I mean, as you mentioned that, I was even looking at the, diversity and inclusivity, and even the citizenship that you spoke about, and that's kind of the whole child, and being supportive of everybody in the community kind of falls into that last bucket. So I'm not necessarily saying have less. What I'm saying is
It could be,
make it more streamlined and cohesive.
I can understand that.
I also think a sense of community is missing. I don't know, obviously our school community, but having the sense of community and feeling like they belong.
Mhm.
Belong.
Right. And that's part of that inclusive piece as well.
Absolutely. So as far as kind of our board homework, do we want to take this one back and all kind of come up with our own wording, not for every goal, but just take basically innovative practices and literacy and come up with our own words and then try to come to an agreement on
with it one more time and
Yeah.
come back and see.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If
because
we
I'd
can just
also-
focus on those two.
Because also on the new one, I mean, it mentions MTSS, but I really, really, given everything that's going on, I really think it needs to specifically say something about anti-bullying programs. I know we're putting that into place, but I think it's really important. So I think we should somehow put that in there, so
Okay.
I would like to see that added.
All right.
I'm going to add one more thing. I did find wording I liked about using strategies that include trauma-informed school life systems of support to improve mental health substance prevention. So I think that's part of it.
Yep.
And then we could add in the anti-bullying or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that
Question.
the sentence I had here was, basically talking about that, and then just saying this initiative would also include comprehensive anti-bullying programs to ensure that our schools are welcoming, respectful, and safe learning environments for all our students. So, yeah, I think that's probably a good plan to just
Yeah.
kind of,
So play with it one more time and come back.
yeah.
Come back for the next meeting and we'll have our
You can
goals.
get it in this format and tweak it from a format similar to this.
Yeah, so if we wanted to, I can add a second page to that Google spreadsheet that will have this right here.
Perfect.
And we'll essentially do the same process that we did for the first, which individual feedback, and we'll try to articulate that into some of those new goals.
Yeah, I think I sent mine as a separate email and not in a Google form, so could you resend me
Yeah.
that link?
I'm pretty sure I did that too.
That's okay. I actually have to tell you, I know that this process is stretching out more than it has previously, but
It's
I actually,
kind of implied, right?
it's nice to be able to see your individual feedback, and it helps me get a sense of the things that you value, what your priorities are, and I actually really appreciate that. So the fact that you're being mindful and taking your time to go through this exercise is, I think it's a good thing,
Yeah.
so.
It's also a very different board than it was 2 years ago, even though it's the same feel, which is good.
Yep.
Well, it's also easy to have the same goals every year. You got to change them up sometimes. And,
Yeah.
you know, if you keep having the same goals, you're not going to change anything, so.
Well, and I think, related to things like bullying, as a board, we were presented with different experiences than the other board was presented with. So that realigns our priorities and our goals. And there should be no shame in realigning those.
Yep, absolutely.
Great. All right. Okay. No shame. 2024-2025 Board Liaison Assignment Revision. So with Aaron joining the board,
I can just take what David had, if you want to just make it easy.
That's so easy.
Unless somebody wants to switch something up.
does anyone feel passionate about switching their assignments, or are we good with letting Aaron take the facilities, the policy committee, and the communication committee?
I'd be very happy to work with Aaron on facility.
Well, you're going to have to tell me what you're doing, because I don't know anything about that one.
I show up and watch the construction guys talk about stuff, and then I ask questions because I don't understand.
All right, so we're in the same boat, is that
Oh,
what you're
yeah,
saying?
absolutely.
I've already been on the policy committee, so I know what that one is. And then the communication committee, I can probably handle that. And I've
And-
worked with Missy before, so we're good.
And just to kind of educate, I know people probably already know, but just to educate the new board members on what it means to be a liaison when it comes to the actual budget workshop meetings that we have. Depending on what assignment you're a part of, you'll sit with that person. Facilities will sit with Jeff Mackey. I will sit with Dr. Cheney and review what their asks are for the year and get to ask questions and poke holes into things that they're asking. So feel free to do that.
Where,
Workshop meetings.
on the communication committee part of that, what, do they have to sit in on certain meetings, or what's that? I just want to make sure I understand what I would need to do.
And I think part of the work with the communication committee, if I'm correct too, has been in also maintaining communication with the town of Hampstead.
Oh,
That's, and
got that.
correct me if I'm wrong, but
Okay,
that was a piece of it was,
I'm already doing that,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, you're already deep
I'm
in
already
that.
doing that. All right, that sounds good. Thank you. Just wanted to make sure, doing my job.
Okay. Any other questions on board liaison assignments? Okay. Moving on to board comments and correspondence. I'll go quickly, just kind of advertising here. The Junior Olympics is this weekend, this Saturday from 9 to noon. It's for grades 1st through 6th grade. So feel free to attend. It's free to register. You can register online or you can register in person day of, and it's hosted at Town Hall Field. So we hope to see you all there.
I went to the 275th anniversary. It was awesome. And a special shout out to Maury Withern, who did his last fireworks performance
Yes.
for the town. So we're going to miss him greatly because he's been doing it for decades along with Chip. So that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I got to be part of that committee for the 275th, so that was awesome. Great group of people, and the event was absolutely amazing. A lot of work went into that, so thank you to everybody for that. But otherwise, I don't really have anything.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, moving on to the 2024-2025 personnel report.
all right, so I do not have a personnel report for this evening. For the superintendent report, I just want to comment, Amy really highlighted many of the items I would have highlighted. I thought it's been a tremendous opening, and I think about that first day of school. We roll in here to see parents at the middle school dropping their kids off for carpool with the big smiles, the kids smiling, the parent is excited, school's back in session, and then you roll into the central school and the parents are crying and the kids are crying. And it was very interesting because today I was in HCS carpool and I opened the door and I saw a child that on the first day of school was a wreck, was really, really struggling. And at first I'm like, uh-oh, how's this gonna go? And they hopped out of the car with a big smile. And I just said to the parent, like, what a difference a week makes. And I think that's testament just to, once we get them in, that's when the magic happens and the fear and anxiety sort of dissipates. To that end, yeah, I've had a lot of community members, parents, staff, and even students who've told me that it's been a great opening. And I do want to remark, and I think you heard it tonight, what a strong, first month. It hasn't even been a month for Principal Bernard here. To see this combination, we had this conversation earlier, the really appropriate balance of leadership, management, and relationships.
Yep.
Really has demonstrated such a high proficiency in those areas. And I get excited for the partnership that we'll have in moving the school forward in a very appropriate way. To that end, Principal Bernard and I held a conversation with community members this evening. It was an intimate group, I will admit, and part of that was a little bit of short notice, but we wanted to just give people the opportunity, for anyone that's listening, please pick up the phone and call us. Most people have our cell numbers. If you don't, we can give it to you. We are available to talk to you anytime you need to, whether there's an issue, feedback that you want to provide. So, Amy and I were talking, we're going to provide more opportunities for the community to come in and be able to chat with us on any topic. We're here to listen to folks. I also did just want to update too, for those folks that don't know, we have a program called the Foster Grandparents Program at the Central School. And we're actually looking for more opportunities to expand that program. And we're even talking about the potential of maybe expanding it even into the middle school, where sometimes middle schoolers need grandparents the most. And this is a partnership between the Hampstead School District, AmeriCorps, and some of you may be familiar. AmeriCorps is really about getting people into the teaching profession. So when you think about AmeriCorps, you think about young professionals going and working sometimes in inner city schools. This program operates on the other end, where it is retirees who come in, they give of their time, and the program has been transformative here in the Central School to see the work that they've done. We talked about MTSSB, managing behavior, and the social emotional wellness. The foster grandparent program is an integral part of that work. And so that partnership, they asked if we would be willing to help do a promotional video to promote the program. We were more than willing to oblige, and I wanted to share that video. I've been told by tech, in order for us here to hear the volume, we have to turn off our mics. So I present to you the foster grandparent program.
14 years. It keeps you on your toes. You also make a lot of friends. And like I said, the children just love you.
The benefits of having a grandparent in the classroom are numerous. I have the opportunity to have the grandma work with reading groups, playing games with children, reviewing flashcards or sight words, and I'm able to see an impact in the children's growth because of that one-on-one time with a grandparent.
I retired in August and lasted about 3 months at home, was totally bored, missed the kids, so I found out about the foster grandparents program, and I went on a roll from there, and here I am, and I just totally love it. It's a wonderful program because you can make your own hours, you can come in so many days a week, and then the benefits outweigh staying home.
I talked to a lot of them, and a lot of people I know that are retired and looking for something. I said, if you enjoy children and being with children, I suggested, why don't you look into the foster grandparent program, because it's very rewarding and it makes you give back. You feel you've got a purpose.
The Foster Grandparent Program is an AmeriCorps senior initiative for adults 55 and over who are on a fixed income. Contact the Friends Program to see if you qualify for this unique opportunity.
I'll just say, from my perspective, having been in the classroom both as a substitute and a volunteer, and working side by side with Grammy Ann, I'm just such a huge fan of this program. There's just so much warmth that they provide instantly as soon as kids enter the classroom. So, just a huge fan of this program.
Yeah, I feel the same. It's a great program, and that was awesome. But I'm a little terrified because I'm almost at that 55 age.
Aaron, I think you'd make a wonderful granny.
I'm gonna have to stop coloring my hair, I guess.
just-
No, that was. No, I love that. I know I don't know if this was the same program, but like when my daughter was little, they had like she had Grammy this and Grammy that in class, and loved it. Absolutely loved it. So this is great.
Yeah, I believe the program, I think it's like 17 years it's been running. And we had second grade teacher Marla Prue last year who presented at the Superintendent's Innovations Conference. And I know that the program has gained a lot of traction since that presentation. Like, our grannies are doing like real work in the classroom. Like, they are helping kids learn how to read, learn their math facts, in addition to the obvious, which is providing that really great social emotional support. So, we're looking to grow the program. There's other teachers that are interested, so folks can go to the website that's at the end of the video and click the link, and you can sign up.
Having seen it in another district, it's amazing as a change of pace how much the kids pay attention to when the grandparent comes in and reads and stuff like that. And as far as when, early intervention, that gives the teacher even more opportunity to pull kids aside and do stuff like that. So it's awesome.
I heard it's mandatory for ex-board members.
What to be? Yeah, you never know. You never know. A few more years. I have a few more years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that one of your board goals?
Yes.
Charles?
All right. Any other questions or comments for tonight? Okay. At this point, we will adjourn our meeting at 8:17 PM.
Awesome.
Thank you, everyone.